what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy a flurry of defensive line commitments specifically. So if we wanted to back this up a little bit, at the end of June, you got top 100 edge rusher Jesse Harold. And then on July 4th, you got Zion Williams. Very funny name. I mean, it's just, I've said Zion Williamson so many times on air that I guarantee we're going to make that mistake at some point. You got Zion Williams.
We won't be the first.
Committed on July 4th. No, nor the last.
No.
Then on July 5th, you flip a four-star defensive tackle, Brandon Brown from Texas. And you also have Damian Shanklin commit on the 5th as well. So another defensive tackle. So right now, another defensive end, Zion Williams, DT, Brandon Brown, DT, and then Shanklin and Harold both on the edge. The point is, at a position of need, you stacked a lot of quality bodies, and you have now climbed back into 4th in the on-3 team rankings. Now, real quick note on the team rankings, because you may be saying, wait, 4th? Like, I thought every time we talked about it, LSU's been like 1 or 2, right? Well, you were, thanks to your early commitments from all the number 1 players in January, but Ohio State, kind of slowly but surely just did what Ohio State does, and they end up taking that number 1 spot. Then didn't really know this until today. Alabama back at number 2 after receiving 13 commitments in the last month. Then, of course, you had Decorian Moore decommit from LSU. He commits to Oregon. That put Oregon barely above LSU, so you were down to 4. Then Georgia came in with a few commits. They passed you up. They bumped you down to 5. Now, thanks to these commits over the 4th and the 5th, you are back up to the number 4 class in the entire nation, which again, you know me, I don't really care about if you're 2 or 4. If you are in that top 5, that is dominant. That is A+ job by the staff, as long as it's positionally done well. And, there's a lot more to get into in this class, but that's the movement that has happened here recently.
Yeah, again, top 5 class, and you have the number 1 quarterback in the country. Mm-hmm. You are going to take that every single day, and you continue to get positions of need over the last couple of days as well. So, yeah, I mean, you look at it like you're a couple of points behind the leader in Ohio State. And so you're right there in that class that you have to be in. You have to be in that group of Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. You're ahead of Notre Dame. And so you're doing everything that you have to do. Average NIL, by the way, on 3.
Yeah.
You've got right now higher than anybody else.
Well, so the reason why is because, close your ears, Jake. LSU right now tied with Oregon for the highest blue chip ratio in the country. If you look at some of, and all the average NIL is like, okay, it's a projection of what they think this player could make, right? It's not necessarily to say what they are making, what they could make on the market, but, obviously better players are going to have higher numbers. So if you have high numbers, you have very quality players. Yes, both Oregon and LSU with only 15 commits. Like, that is the other thing. The teams ahead of them have more commits. So the chance to climb, if they keep the quality up, will be there. But LSU and Oregon, 15 commits, 14 for both classes, 4 and 5 stars. So definitely 23 commits
already.
Yeah. Their class is, pretty much edging towards full.
I know you don't have a cap anymore, but you have roster caps.
Yeah.
And so 23 commits. Alabama's got 20.
That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure. I mean, everybody. Maybe Georgia. Is Georgia also at like 15 or 16?
Georgia's 18.
Okay. So Oregon and LSU. Oregon. So crazy how quickly Oregon's done this, but LSU and Oregon though really, really quality right now. Still some quantity to be added, but getting all those defensive tackles obviously. How about this? We talk about the geographic advantages of LSU all the time, and shout out Shea Dixon. This was in his on 3-piece, a wonderful little nugget here. And then I always tell you about how Georgia's kind of like LSU, only more so, unfortunately. LSU and Georgia, the only teams in the top 10 industry rankings, so all the recruiting services put together, they're the only teams in the top 10 with an average distance of fewer than 300 miles from a commit's hometown to the program's campus. So again, Coach Kelly and the staff doing a very good job of exploiting LSU's greatest inherent advantage.
It's what you have to do. It is non-negotiable. You have to do it, and they are certainly doing it at a high level. So you look at around the top 5, and it is the who's who, and Oregon's kind of the new name, but we said it when it happened. Oregon was just waiting on somebody to want them, somebody to desire them and not desire somewhere else.
Yeah.
Willie Taggart, 1 year, Florida State. Mario Cristofrod, a couple of years, he goes down to Miami. Okay. Dan Lanning said, now hell with that. I can build something here in Eugene. It's already kind of built. I don't know why people bail on it, but he committed to it this offseason whenever there was a lot of jobs, including Alabama, which he was tied to open. He said, no, I want to be here in Eugene. And when you commit like that, well, you can build something like that at Oregon. And I've said it. You've said it. We've all said it for a couple of years. If you just buy into what it is, it can be maybe not Ohio State and Georgia, but it can be right underneath them.
And you know what's crazy? I don't know. Okay, let's be clear. I think the analogy that I'm about to make is fraught with logical potholes and holes that you can poke in the argument. So just take this more as like just a little idea that I'm floating out there. But in the age of NIL, I mean, Phil Knight has always felt like a pseudo owner of Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. Now, again, it's not like the NFL where you make profit off of the team. He doesn't literally own the team. So what's his return is something that we could have a debate about. But I'm just thinking, like, I know that Phil Knight's just not the lone person funding NIL at Oregon, but let's say he's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Think about how much cheaper it is still than like an NFL payroll. Right, like we could sit here and talk all the time about how what this kid's making like $500K or this kid's making $400K. Okay, but that's not 53 people making over $1 million, with some making 30, $20 million. Like so, if Phil Knight really wanted to, and I don't know what exactly his level of investment is, but if he really wanted to, like he could justify it in his brain, being like, okay, well, I'm basically like an NFL owner, only I'm paying like a tenth of whatever an NFL payroll would actually be, and my school has now seen more success than we've ever seen previously in that regard. So, Oregon continues, again, because like Jake said, now that they have Lanning committed and locked in, they look like they will be one of the superpowers here going forward, and they're recruiting like it, but more importantly for our show, so is LSU.
Yep, and LSU's doing, again, what they have to do, which is, you dominate your state, and then you go get players.
Go to East Texas.
LSU, that's when they've been the most successful is when they've had players from East Texas on the roster. I mean, we could go down the list of championship teams and guys from East Texas that were kind of difference makers. And so, yes, you are right. And then, sometimes you go up to Michigan and you get the number one quarterback in the country because you are LSU and you can do that.
Because, Joe Sloan. It's crazy. Again, that's one of the things that I'm so intrigued to see is you have all these great quarterback commits and prospects, number one QBs that keep visiting town. They keep bragging on Sloan, and Bryce Underwood talks about his relationship with Sloan all the time and how much that means. If Garrett Nussmeier balls out this year, like really plays well, then then you truly have established a bona fide quarterback pipeline. And it could set you up maybe for like a run a la Oklahoma. Under Lincoln Riley on quarterbacks potentially. We'll see. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I do believe if Nuss is able to beat, which I think he should, then it's going to be a very attractive landing spot for quarterbacks in the future going forward. So real quick on these players, Zion Williams is a 6'4", 330 defensive tackle, 6'4", 330 in high school. Might have to tone some of that up potentially, but that's a big man. Can't teach size. From Lufkin, Texas. Brandon Brown, 6'2", 290 from Melbourne, Florida. Of course, he was committed to Texas, top 300 player. Number 31 D tackle in the entire country. Bo Davis flips him. That's a great flip for Coach Bo. And then 4-star defensive end Damian Shanklin is the top player from the state of Indiana. He's ranked as the number 10 pass rusher in the 25 class. He chose LSU over Bama and Ohio State. So you want to talk about a symbolic victory going out of state to Indiana, taking the best player out of their state, but more importantly, beating Ohio State and Alabama in the pursuit for that player. So a really nice 4th of July recruiting weekend for the Tigers.
Dead period, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
going on right now, right?
If those new rules are that
Yeah.
we talked about the other day, it should be a dead period for all of July now as they get ready for the season.
Nice little finish to what this current recruiting cycle was, and now you can focus on this actual upcoming season and getting ready for that. And so, nice little finish. Got to the finish line there for LSU. Still work to be done because, well, we know what commitment means. It means nothing until you actually sign, but done a nice job of getting those commits to commit right here before the dead period.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, nobody's for sure ever locked in till they're on campus, but it's also like you rarely see a class just completely implode.
Yeah.
Like probably Florida this last cycle was maybe the closest that I've seen to it, and even they managed to hold on to Lagway. So, Moose, Taylor, any thoughts on the recruiting front before we move on here?
I really like Zion Williams.
Okay.
It's 6'4", 330. Now, he's a run stuffer, as you might imagine, if you've seen any of his clips.
I would say the 330 probably speaks to that.
But no, I mean, we talk about it all the time, right? Not just the numbers, but like outside of Jacoby and Guillory, it's a little bit of a size thing. Like Gio Paez has size coming in, but outside of him, I mean, you had to move Ahmad Bro, who was like 260 in high school. He's supposed to be up to 285, but JVR Suggs right at 300. But I mean, outside of Guillory, you don't have that big body in the middle. So, I mean, that's going to help you not just depth-wise, but like position-wise as well, having that stuffer in the middle. He's, in my opinion, the biggest player you got literally all weekend long.
Moose, anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's just obviously the position of need thing. I mean, we've been talking about LSU's defensive line and specifically defensive tackles since, the middle of last year when Mekhi Wingo went down with the injury. So, I mean, whether it was transfer portal or Wingo's injury or who's going to come back in the draft, to have that run on defensive linemen right there and specifically defensive tackle is huge.
When you kind of had been waiting on it, you know, you kind of been hoping for it, and then you're just like, there was so much good about the class, but you're like, man, there's still no D lineman, and so to go into it, like Jake said, timing-wise, to launch into the dead period, that is nice. Also, the timing does kind of make sense when you consider Bo Davis just got here a few months ago, right? So these are the relationships that he's been able to carry over, maybe in the case of Brown or really microwave in the case of some of these other guys. Also, when you look at all the success they've had in recruiting edge rushers, I mean, we got to give some love to Peoples, dude, right? Remember when Peoples was hired, he was kind of an afterthought, lost and we're talking about Kevin Peoples, but he was kind of lost in the Bo Davis, Corey Raymond hype. But then I like when I was talking to people at is it the Senior Bowl maybe last year?
Yeah,
they were like, this is watch out, like this is one of the fast risers in this industry right now. And I think what he's done here at LSU so far, recruiting wise, would speak to that. So really positive. Cruton fourth for the Tigers. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.